So we've gotten through 7 of our 8 goals, and I just want to take a moment to look at our report card and look at all those stars. We're doing awesome. We've kept them alive. We've fed them. We're getting good night's sleep. We're exercising. We're playing. We're disciplining. So we're doing fantastically. So the final one is teach them how to be happy. Here's where it doesn't go so well. If you look at statistics right now in our country, our emotional health of our children is not in a good place. Currently, we're experiencing triple suicide rates among 15 to 24-year-olds. 20% of all teens in the United States have some type of mental health disorder or diagnosis. 10% of all teens take a psychiatric medication. 70% of our kids admit to being bullied at least one time. 70% of them admit they hide their online behavior from their parents. And 1/3 of our children experience some kind of stress-related medical problem like headaches, abdominal pain, or sleep disorders. So I can tell you one thing, medication is not going to fix this problem. I like this cartoon because it kind of jokes about the progression of medication that we give our kids for various psychiatric or emotional problems. But it's really no joking matter because medications are not the answer to this problem, in my opinion. So let's take a few minutes and talk about emotional health. A difficult concept, and we've come back to this, we've talked about this with parents modeling exercise behavior, parents modeling eating behavior, but when it comes to emotional health, happy parents make happy children. This is well documented in research, and we know that if parents take the time to keep themselves emotionally healthy, that will have positive outcomes for their children as well. So what translates into happiness? So social connections or connections amongst each other have been shown to be the #1 determinant of happiness for people. And that does not mean that your child needs to be the most popular kid in school or get invited to every party. It's not about that. It's really about having people in their lives that they know, that they can talk to, that they can trust, that they can share their happiness and share their sadness with, share frustrations. And those social connections can be friends, they can be grandparents, they can be your next door neighbor. But it's important to foster those connections amongst each other in a meaningful way for both yourself and your child. Another key to emotional health is to be present. Think about what you're doing. Where are you? How are you feeling? What are you doing at that moment? Put down the cell phone. Turn off the television. Be present. Don't be distracted, especially when you're spending time with your child. It makes a huge difference in the time that we spend with each other and the quality of time that we spend with each other. Time when you are present and focused on your child is much more valuable in terms of 5 minutes means a lot more than if you spent 5 hours of distraction. So taking that chance to drop all of the other worries and distractions and actually be present is important. And finally, we need to both value and teach emotional health skills. So just like we teach our kids to tie their shoes, we need to teach our kids to understand their emotions, to first name their emotions. I'm sad, I'm mad. To second, to deal with their emotions. What do we do when we're sad and mad? What kind of things can help us with that? Everything from teaching a young child to talk about it, to teaching a teenager how to fix it. All of those things matter, and they need us to first and foremost value them and to teach them. So we talked about that if parents aren't happy, kids aren't happy. So the first rule is you need to take care of yourself. And that can sometimes just seem ridiculous because you're working full time and you're raising children, you're doing homework and you're cooking dinner. And oh my gosh, Dr. Fenimore just said I need to exercise. And all of this is happening and you think, I don't have time to do yoga, I don't have time to get a haircut. Yes, you do, and you should. You need to find that time and you need to show your child that you have found time for yourself because your mental health determines your child's mental health. period. Behavior problems are often triggered by parents having mental health problems. So if you are really struggling with your child and their behavior problems, take a moment to think about what's going on in your own life. Take a moment to think about what you're projecting and how can you fix that. Protect your own happiness. If there are people in your lives that are negative and don't make you feel happy, please move away from them. Spend less time with them. If there are things in your life that you don't enjoy, but you have to do them, try to limit the time that you spend doing those things and maximize the time doing the things that you enjoy. I understand we all need to go to work. We all have to do things that maybe aren't our first choices, but there is time and there are ways to put in things that we value. And finally, develop resilience for yourself and your child. And resilience is a word that we talk about a lot. So what is resilience? Resilience is a catchphrase. People talk a lot about it right now. And I really like this book called Raising Kids to Thrive by Dr. Ginsburg. And the reason why I like it is he really concentrates on resilience and breaks it down. He talks about the 7 C's, which model resilience: confidence, competence, connection, character, contributions to society, coping strategies, and control. And he gives you ideas on how to foster all of that in your child. Resilience is something that once you gain that skill, you can rely on it in all sorts of situations. And it's a skill for life, so it's worth thinking about, learning about, and spending time with your child. Another thing that's been shown to really help kids and families and adults cope is to stand for something. And this is an interesting change that we're experiencing in history. So by no means is this slide meant to be, or this talk meant to be, an endorsement of organized religion or anything of that nature. But it's interesting to see the change that we've gone through. So there's a 20% decline in church membership since the 1990s. There's a less emphasis on cultural identity among families. Millennials and Gen Zers, when they're interviewed, say that patriotism or pride in their country is less important in terms of their values. But if you interview people who were raised in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you'll hear the opposite. That is the sort of God, family, country generation. And while there were absolutely problems with that, including a lack of inclusion and all sorts of things, it did allow people to stand for something. It allowed people to have something that they believed in, that could be a backbone from which they built their family. And I think that we need to get back to that in some way, not in the form of forced organized religion. That works for some people, but certainly not for all. But we can stand for things. And what can we stand for? We can stand for spirituality, which doesn't always mean religion, might just mean faith, might just mean beliefs. But it can certainly be something that we can pass on to our children. We can stand for inclusion, equality, things of that nature. We can stand just for kindness, showing our children that the acts of kindness that we do trigger other things, and it's a domino effect throughout the world. We can stand for hard work. We can say the important thing in our family is that we dedicate ourselves to the things that we are good at and that we contribute. So it's important to provide some of that backbone for what your family is about. The other thing we need to do among our families is talk about mental illness, destigmatize it, and make mental wellness a priority in your house. And the way that we do that is by doing things that specifically promote mental wellness, things like practicing gratitude, taking time for each day to say the things that we're thankful for, talking about our day in terms of negatives and positives. A game that a lot of families play is called Rose and Thorn. What was your rose today? What was your thorn today? Speaking to your children in open-ended questions that allow them, almost force them to talk about their feelings. I can tell you're sad about something. Can you tell me more about that? Open-ended questions like that. Take the time to acknowledge and improve your own mental health. It's okay to say to your kids, boy, mom has been really stressed this week. I'm going to take the dog for a walk. I'm going to take some time to think about all the amazing things in my life, and I'm going to get rid of some of that stress because that's important for both me and our family. Doing that, acknowledging it, and taking those steps really makes a difference. And finally, we need to normalize things that help us become emotionally well. Things like therapy, counseling, mindfulness, coping mechanisms. All of these words and vocabulary need to be a part of our lives, and all of them need to be spoken in the same way that we would say it's time for your well checkup, it's time for your immunizations, it's time for exercise. They're all part of keeping us healthy. The final thing can be pretty tricky, but if you read interviews from kids of all ages, they have some messages for us adults, and I think that it's important that we hear them. The kids want us to know a couple things. They don't want to hear about how hard you had it. I walked to school in 3 feet of snow. No, pack it in. They don't want to hear that, and it doesn't really make a difference for how they feel. They don't want you to discount the forces of things like social media, bullying, and academic pressure just because maybe they weren't quite a thing when you were growing up. They are a thing now, and they're a real thing, and they take their energy and they affect their emotions. So we shouldn't discount them. They don't want you to live vicariously through them. If you wanted to be an Olympic track star and you didn't do it, that doesn't mean your child wants to. If you wanted to go to Harvard and you didn't do it, that doesn't mean your child needs to. They don't want you to live vicariously through them. What they do want is for you to spend time in their shoes, for you to walk through their day, think about their challenges, and attempt to relate to them without controlling them. The movie Freaky Friday is always a wonderful example of a parent being forced to do this, and it always makes me laugh every time I see it. But unfortunately, this isn't the movie, so we're going to have to spend some time really trying to understand what our kids go through every day. So a few final lessons before we wrap up. Eat family dinner. It doesn't have to be every night. It can be over pizza. It can be over McDonald's. I don't care. Just eat family dinner. Make time to sit together and enjoy a meal a couple times a week. Personally, individually, take the time and take the effort to smile, to reach out to people, to make those social connections, to address shame. Shame has been described as a tar that covers you, and you can't see through it, and you can't come through it, and you can't move forward. If there's shame in your life, address it, move past it. Be an example. Your kids are watching you. Be an example for them. Value happiness, both your own and other people's, and slow down. We don't need to be in such a hurry all the time. So like I said, parenting, first 30 years are the hardest. You've got this. So that's all I have today. These pictures are my boys. I put them up there just to remind you of how very, very fast this goes, even though some days can seem like they last an eternity. And if you have any questions or any comments or any concerns, parents are welcome to email me via the patient portal for Lancaster Pediatrics. I'm happy to answer them at any